In this week's episode of the podcast, I'm joined by John Higginson from the Higginson Strategy, and we're discussing niching, but not just niching, but laser focusing your niche. And John will share what his agency has done, and he'll also share a unique marketing strategy that they're using that is resulting in them winning more business, and why John believes that owner-managed agencies will always perform better than agencies that are sold off. So a fascinating, insightful episode, and let's get on with the show. I'm Rob DaCosta, and this is the Agency Accelerator podcast. As someone who has stood in your shoes, having started, grown and sold my own agency, I know just how it feels in the ups and downs of agency life. So this podcast aims to ease your journey just a little by sharing mine and my guests' experiences and advice as you navigate your way to growing a profitable, sustainable and enjoyable business. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's Agency Accelerator podcast. Now, when I speak to many agency owners and they're telling me that they don't have a ton of leads, one of the tendencies they have, the decisions they make, is to broaden out their niche because they think that is going to be the right way to get more business, when in actual fact the opposite can be true. And I'm really excited today to be joined by one of our self-running agency members, John Higginson from the Higginson Strategy, who is a PR and comms agency based in London. What's interesting about the Higginson Strategy is that they have niched right down, firstly focusing their agency on purpose-driven clients, and then laser focusing their niche even further to focus on plastics. So welcome to the podcast, John. Can we just kick off things by telling us a little bit more about the plastic-free market space?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So the plastic-free market place that I found myself in really came from our first client. I'd never think to niche quite so specifically into plastic-free, and I didn't think that you could essentially build a business on the back of that. But our first major client that we won, which was exactly where we wanted to be because they were purpose-led, and they wanted us to do all the things we were good at, such as a bit of public affairs, lobbying for them, a bit of opinion writing, lots of campaigny stories, were a plastic planet. They were two wonderful women who had a great idea, but they didn't really know what to do with it. They had taken this idea after really holidays and seeing the plastic washing up on beaches in beautiful foreign places. And they said, we want to do something about this. And the more they looked into it, the more that they realized that they were part of the problem, and they wanted to create a campaign around it. And so we took that and we built that whole campaign. And that first client we used as a way of winning awards and doing our best work on the back of. And really from there, we attracted more and more clients in that area. And that was, and when that first happened, I actually first started getting quite worried about that because I just thought, I can't build a full agency on plastic-free clients. There's just not going to be enough, and I need to be broader. And at that stage, I was kind of, in a way, trying to hide the fact that we were doing so much plastic-free stuff, because I thought if we go to other clients that we want to win, they're not going to go with us because of that. And that's when I came to you, really, and I said, look, this is a bit worrying for me because our niche is so specific that I'm worried about winning other clients that we want to win. And you really gave me that confidence and said, no, carry on. It's good to have a niche, and you will still do great work for other clients, and they will see that. But if you have that specific niche, you'll win more and more clients in that area, and you'll be able to charge at the right amount, and because those clients will respect the amount of expertise you've gained in that area. So we're now 5 years in as our agency, 5 years into really niching in that specific area, and I'd say about almost 50% of our revenue comes from that specific niche, and then the other half comes from other, as you say, purpose-led organizations where we can really talk about their purpose. They don't mind about the fact that we are in the anti-plastic or the plastic alternative space. And it's really helped us win business.
Yeah, so that sort of leads me on to the next question, which is, what are the key benefits that you've seen by having such a clear niche?
One of the greatest ones for any agency owner, I think, is for a potential client to come to you saying that they want to work with you to save you having to do what is expensive in money and time of reaching out and doing competitive pitching, and them coming to you and say, we want to work with you. Can you write us a proposal? And at that stage, you're so much closer to winning than when you're out there in the marketplace with everyone else looking for, doing those competitive pitches, sometimes against 8 or 9 other agencies, where you throw all your energy into it, in the hope of winning those clients there. And so that's been very helpful for us. And because we've got that expertise already, we've already got this huge head start.
Yeah, no, that's such good advice. I hope the listeners will really take all of that on board. And as I say, when you have a clear niche, you might have less potential clients, but the clients will find it so much easier to find you, as you just highlighted, John. So what advice would you give to an agency owner who's listening to this and they're either not sure about their niche or they're running this thought in their head that, oh my God, if I niche down, I will lose loads of client opportunities?
It just doesn't happen. If you're doing great work for clients who don't already sit in your niche, then those clients are going to carry on working with you, and it doesn't really matter if you niche down. And that was one of my first fears, is that we had, 1 or 2 other clients that sit outside the niche, as every agency does. Lots of agencies have people that you might have met. We meet people at the school gates, people that are friends through our children who say, "Oh God, yeah, I'm a head of comms. I want you doing work for us." And those people are people that you meet through your own network and through other means, and you're not going to get them through that niching process. And because they know you and they know that you do great work, you will still win those clients and carry on doing work with those clients. So it isn't an either or. You can keep niching down, and as you know, our niche is really quite specific. Apart from when we're talking about purpose, which I talk about a lot, we are talking about a really kind of zoomed in niche, as it were, because it's in the environment space. You've got lots of other comms agencies that are in your environment space, or there's a few of them. But around the world, I don't know of a single other agency that has niched into plastic alternatives. And so it puts us in a great advantage. We've also got a large number of clients outside of the UK. So we win business from around the world. We've got clients based in the US, in Israel, in Holland. And so although the plastic alternative space might seem small, because we're the biggest agency in the world in this space, we actually are much bigger in that. And even though we're a boutique agency, we're only about 16 people now, 2 offices, London and Manchester. We have far more clients in other countries than most other small boutique agencies would have in the UK because of that niche that we've got.
Yeah, that's great. And have you found that you've been able to increase your prices because you're seen as that specialist?
Yeah, I think there's never any question about we're not having to have those questions about price that we'd have if there wasn't a clear differentiator and if it wasn't clear what our expertise was. So we're able to lift our prices as we should do, with inflation as it is at 9% in the UK at the moment. For listeners in the UK, I know that the same problems are happening around the world, and you'll have listeners around the world as well. And so because of that, we've all got problems with the kind of fight for talent at the moment. So that means that not only is inflation at 10%, but staff salaries, I feel, are going up at a greater rate than that. So we have to be able to raise salaries to keep that talent. And that means we have to be able to raise those prices, and we have to be able to do it in a way that we don't fear that we're going to lose our clients because they can easily go to someone else who's doing exactly the same thing as us.
Yeah, and actually you really hit on another good point there, that when you're as specialist as you, then you're probably going to have stronger client retention than if you are a more generalist agency where there's, so many that the client can pick from.
Hmm.
And when it comes to recruitment, do you look for employees that have an interest in this space, or are you more thinking about, well, they've got to have good PR, comms skills, I can teach them the rest? What's the most important factor for you?
Yeah, well, it would really limit our ability to go for talent if we went out there looking for people that specifically knew about plastic alternatives, because it's such a new nascent market that we wouldn't be able to find the talent there. So I'm still looking for people that are excellent comms people, excellent writers, all those other things. Adverts, we talk about the fact that we're purpose led, and we do find that that's actually an attractive thing for actually attracting talent. So it's more about talking about who we are, and that talent wants to come to us quite often because they want to be working on doing good. And we talk about the fact that we're working with clients that are making the world a better place, that are doing good. And that's actually a benefit to us when reaching out to get the best talent. But for me, I want the people that are the best at the job, and they learn their expertise on the job.
Yeah, no, great call. And I guess lots of millennials and so on really care about that whole environment thing. So it's definitely going to work in your favor. Now, you have an interesting marketing strategy to build credibility for Higginson, in that you have launched your own magazine called The Plastic Free Post. So can you just tell us a bit about why you did that and some of the benefits that you found from this initiative?
Yeah, so I know that you tell lots of your clients you've got to have a good email marketing strategy and take them on a journey and stuff. Now, I'm a former journalist, and I spent 15 years in journalism. When I was very young as a journalist, I set up a small local newspaper in South Africa. And I went through the various processes of being a journalist. So for me, it was very natural to just think of something being a journal that people turn to, thinking, what is something that people are actually going to want? So there's no publication out there actually in the plastic alternative space. So I thought just a simple weekly newsletter that goes out with the top 5 stories in the plastic free space would be really useful for people. And I started that off. That goes out at 8 o'clock every morning without fail on a Friday. It's signed off now. It will be landing in 1,500 people's inboxes at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And really, it was about thinking, is everyone just going to click on that thing at the bottom saying, unsubscribe, I don't want this, why are you sending me this thing? So I didn't know about that. Or is it going to be something that's genuinely useful? For the first, I think, 9 months, we were just sending it out there, and I was getting good feedback, and I was getting feedback from people saying, yes, I really like this, but it hadn't led to a single actual business win or anything like that. And it wasn't until I got an email from someone in Germany saying, we work in the plastic alternative space, we work in trying to close the loop on plastics. We're here, a small startup in Germany that I'd have never found myself, and we want to work with you. And so we are working with that organization now. And it took a very small step then, because they'd been getting every week Plastic Free Post. They'd signed up to it. Everyone in the office had signed up to it. It took a very small step from them going from that to signing up as a client. They almost were kind of biting our arm off already, saying, where do we sign up? Can you work with us? And so that's been really useful. The other thing that's been useful about it is connecting with stakeholders in the space. So as well as sending out the top 5 stories every Friday, we will occasionally interview people in the space. So that might be a politician that's into this issue, and that's useful for us in the work that we do across public affairs. And then also, we know a lot of the stories that are in the space as well, because lots of them are our clients. I try not for it not to be a look at what we've achieved for our client this week type thing. So to exercise editorial control over it. Obviously, there's a factor in it in that I know that those stories are there as well, but we look across the world's media and see if there are better stories out there as well.
There's a few things I just wanted to pick up on that, because I think it's really an interesting strategy. First of all, and I say this so often, so it's worth reiterating, because you just made the point that any decent marketing and sales strategy you're going to implement takes time to deliver results. And we live in a world where everybody wants instant gratification. And so you have to be persistent, whether it be the Plastic Free Post that you said took 9 months before you kind of got any kind of business from it, or, running a podcast like this that I'm in year 3 now, you have to keep at it. You have to be willing to keep going, even if you do feel like you're talking to nobody. And I certainly felt like that in the first year of this podcast, and sounds like you did with the magazine as well. The second thing I wanted to pick up on is the fact that we have to build know, like, and trust with people before they'll buy from you. So this is a fantastic vehicle for you, John, to do that know, like, and trust piece. So like you said, it was a small leap from someone reading that avidly to picking up the phone and working with you. And the third thing I wanted to say is that if we take a value first approach in our marketing, we're going to do so much better than using our marketing to sell. And again, I think you've demonstrated that really well by making it a magazine that's about the industry, and something that that your audience are actually going to find useful. So three cheers for you on that one. What's the future looking like for the Higginson Strategy? What are your plans over the next few years?
Well, so in terms of financial growth, and we don't like to concentrate on that. It's always important, and agency owners particularly are kind of thinking about that. So we've been doing well. We've been growing at about a third per year. I think it was 37% last year, and we're on form for about the same amount this year as well. In terms of long-term strategy, now I know that lots of agency owners want to kind of build up something, and then they might get a bit tired out, and then want to sell. I particularly liked what you were talking about with the kind of self-running agency, in the idea of building an agency that you never want to sell. And I'm kind of on that trajectory, that I'd love to get to the point where essentially I'm kind of wheeled out like the Queen, and as a kind of figurehead, but the company runs itself, and I can still feel like I'm important at the age of 80, still being kind of brought along to things. So I haven't got those kind of ambitions to sell, but equally, I'm not just thinking about let's just grow. I want to have an agency that is a great niche, and actually it might get to a certain point where it's sitting at 3 million turnover, and I say this is the point at which we stop, and we actually keep getting better and better and more profitable at this size, rather than kind of going into the abyss of the medium-sized agency with 50 employees and 100 employees, where I kind of feel like there could be problems there. So that's the kind of financial element of it.
Yeah,
I'd love for us to be seen as the purpose-led agency, or one of the top ones around the world, in 5 years' time.
Yeah, so I love all of that, and obviously you're singing off the same hymn sheet as me, because we've been working together for a good few years. But I think a lot of people, especially in the early days, they get seduced by the idea of selling their agency, and it's a good stroke of their ego. But the reality is, when you sell a service-based business, what are you selling? You're selling, your client books, your staff, your brand perhaps, but also you. So I definitely feel like sometimes people throw the baby out the bathwater, when actually what they could do is turn it into a golden goose that lays the golden egg, to mix all my metaphors there. And I think the other thing I wanted to pick up on, which is a really important one, is that everybody's roadmap is their own roadmap. There is no right or wrong way to do this. And so you're being really perceptive by talking about getting to a certain size and then maximizing profits, rather than just thinking, if I don't keep growing by 35% year on year, I'm failing, which I think a lot of people do, because they judge themselves against other agencies, which is not the best thing to do, is it?
No, it's not. Yes, I think that's absolutely right. And, find out what you want to do. But if you are thinking, I want to sell, then already you're kind of thinking, I want out of here. And that's not really necessarily the right mindset to have.
No.
I think the kind of best mindset is to be thinking, how can I really be making the best product for my clients? And I think the reason I've kind of read a lot and seen a lot on how founder-led companies of all kinds are actually more profitable and better businesses. And you get lots of investors now around the world that will invest in companies like Tesla, that's got Elon Musk at the helm of it, or Microsoft, or any of those other huge, great companies that are really successful. Apple is another great example. And it's founder-led. And what are the reasons why founder-led businesses do better than businesses that have been sold off and that are run by others. And it's often because the founders really passionately care about what they do. When clients come to me as well, I look at that money and I think, would I feel like I'm getting value for money for this work I'm done? And on those kind of occasions that can happen where you say, we didn't do as good a job as we could have done then, for me, that really matters. And I'm not sure that always matters as much in a business that is not founder run. My name is on the company header, literally in my instance. And so it matters. If we put out a press release that I don't think is the best possible press release that could be got from that story, then I feel like I've failed and I go back down to the bottom. And I know that in some communications agencies, they don't care that much. It's sometimes the press release is done by someone junior, no one senior really looks at it. And then that affects the whole delivery of the whole thing, because the journalist gets a press release, it isn't very well written, they're less likely to run it. The actual client gets a worse result for their money. And I think if you're a founder, you keep going from each area of the business, from one to the other, looking at it and go, how can we do a better job here? How are we not doing as good a job as we can? And so that's why it's far better actually to be as a founder wanting to stay in your company forever, as it were, because you're always going to be looking for those holes and looking for things, saying, how can we do this better? Why is my name attached to this work?
Yeah, it's so perceptive. And of course, I think over time, the founder's role changes as you try to extricate yourself more from the day-to-day work. Then you're focusing on some of those other things that you've mentioned. So I think that's a really good point to make. Now, let me just ask you the question that I ask all of my guests before we wrap this up, which is, if you could go back in time and give the younger John just starting out in business a piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to niche early, and I've probably given you the exact thing that you wanted me to say. But I think it is a very good piece of advice there, because the thing that I always look at now as a comms agency or a marketing agency, there is such a low point of entry because you don't even need to qualify in anything at all. So every single journalist who's put out of work the next day is a PR professional. The next day can go out there saying, I can do your PR. So you're up against thousands and thousands of people, and you're up against new people every day. And some people come in and they come out. So in order to really set yourself apart, getting that expertise in a certain area where you can say the point of entry becomes much harder here, because that person who has suddenly just been made redundant, or that person who's decided, I'm now a marketing expert, I'm going to set up a marketing agency, they are no longer your competition. And so you can really put yourself apart and not be frightened to do that.
Yeah, no, I wasn't fishing for you to say that, but it is a great segue into sort of going the full circle on this episode. So that's so interesting. I really appreciate some of the great insights you've shared. Now, if people wanted to find out more about you and Higginson Strategy and everything else, where would they go?
Go to www.higginsonstrategy.com. And I can't believe I just said www. Because it's really not needed anymore. It shows my age.
Yeah, I just recently relaunched our website, and the guys said, no, you don't need the www anymore. Anyway, I'll put the link into today's show notes. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with the audience today. I know that they're going to find this one really insightful. And so thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Rob.